Cream. So a latte? No, just coffee. Aha. Let me see if we have any of that. Do we have coffee? We'll have to make some, so it'll be about 10 minutes. To make a pot of coffee? Yeah, we have to make like a giant one. Why? I don't know. Would you like a caramel ribbon crunch blended frappuccino while you wait? No thanks. Do you have anything with less words? Would you like a flat white? A flat, what is that, like an egg white? How about a cafe Americano? Okay, sure. That one sounds simple. Okay, what flavors? We have hazelnut, toffee nut, caramel, peppermint, cinnamon dolce, vanilla, sugar-free vanilla, toasted vanilla, sheepskin vanilla. Okay, yep. Okay, the vanilla one is fine. Would you like any cold foam? We have chocolate, salted caramel, sweet vanilla. Okay, nope. I don't even know what that is, so. Okay, and you want a splash of cream? Yes. We have almond milk, coconut milk, oat milk, soy milk, bamboo milk, deer milk, cashew milk, banana milk. Half and half. Okay, great. And what size? Just a small. You mean a tall? Nope, I don't mean that. I mean a small. I don't want a tall one. A small is a tall. That doesn't make any sense. Do you want a grande? No, I don't want a large. Our grande is our medium. I feel like hurting you. Oh boy. Okay, for the coffee and the Americano, your total is $800. Ah, that's funny.
Amazing. That's my guest this week, Josh Mancuso, with some of my favorite videos there, man. It speaks to me as a coffee guy. It was awesome to see. I love it because I'm currently actually drinking an Americano right now. So, that's how that goes. How are you today?
That's great, man. I'm good. Yes. I'm not even much of a coffee drinker myself. So, but I've been to Starbucks many times and thought I would make a little fun of the experience.
Isn't that a pain in the ass? It's just like, just give me a large coffee, man. I
Just
don't know
want
when
a
it turned
coffee.
in. I don't know when it turned into a thing. What started this whole thing for me on the podcast side, before this was called Do.Did.Will, it was called Brenton on Tour. I travel, I run concerts, and I search for all the best coffee in the world. And I actually did a blog called Which Coffee Asshole Are You? And it actually blew up a little bit, and it did pretty well because people were like, "Yeah, I only drink from the guys with the aprons and all this stuff," and it actually put us all into a category of coffee assholes. So when I
Which
saw your
one are
video,
you?
I was like, "That's great! It's perfect! It's awesome!" So,
That's
anyways,
that's one of my favorite videos actually. Just I love the sports stuff that I do, but the coffee part, just I think a lot of people could relate to that one. It's like, okay, yeah, I've been there trying to order a coffee, and then um, you know they're offering me all kinds of things, and for me, I don't know what they're talking about. I have daughters, and they give me their order in the drive-through, and I have
yeah.
to repeat it from my daughters to the person, and I can never get it right, and it's
I'm
so
the same.
complex.
I'm the same. My 14-year-old's like, I'll take a something, 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 something. I'm like, this is how they make all the money, right? Just get a black coffee.
Just get
Anyways,
some coffee with cream. That's the bonus for me. It's like, oh, cream, sure.
yeah. Josh, welcome to Do Did Will, the Story of People podcast. Really appreciate making the time. I love comedy, so I'd like to try to have as many comedians on here as possible. So I really appreciate the time. I know you're a busy guy with lots going on, so thank you very much.
No, thanks for having me. You're looking for a funny person, and you couldn't find one, so I was able to hop on in place of them. So happy to do so.
Ironically, I love how humble you comedians are. Because ironically, when I was actually a good friend of mine is a big fan of yours, and he's like, check this out, and I was like, oh, this is great, and I've got some comedian friends in my life, and you can't have them all on, so I kind of like to talk to people that I haven't spoken to before, and funny people especially. So it's great, and comedy is just one of my favorite things in the whole world, and also an art that to me it just boggles my mind. So good on you, man, for putting the time in.
Oh man, thanks. No, yeah, I appreciate you having me on this. I'm excited to keep chatting.
Josh, okay, so we get rolling here. It's Do Did Will, the Story of People podcast. So Josh, what do you do?
I am a comedian and actor and filmmaker, so I've got a good following on social media, and that's where I entertain most of the most of the folks, and we make a lot of sports comedies. I mean, I kind of fell into the sports comedies thing in football season, and it just took off, and it's been an absolute blast. As you can see, if you're watching, not just listening, I've got Tennessee stuff behind me. I'm a Tennessee fan, and so it's been a blast. I make comedies, and then I do act in films as well. I was in a feature film back in November. It comes out later this year. And so just exploring and going down this journey of entertainment and comedy and acting and writing and filming and just everything I can get my hands on, and just making people laugh. That's what I'm trying to do, man, every single day.
It's so rewarding when people laugh. That's what the that's what the get is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's right.
How
It is great to hear from people who are like, because when sometimes I put things out, I'm like, is this even funny? Like, you get into a rut and a monotony of like, this video is just like the last video I put out, but hopefully people like it. But you keep doing it, and then you get those messages from folks who are like, "Hey, I've had a really bad week, and watching your comedy just made it better." And I'm like, "Oh, that's great.
it's the
That's why you
best.
do it." So yeah,
No, I mean, and the best part about doing content online is that outside of the comments on YouTube and some of the, the people that'll do it, you really don't know outside of it going viral or taking off whether people are finding it funny. I'm assuming if they come back to see you, then that's your clap. That's your audience clap or your audience live laugh, right? Is that how
that's
you
it.
gauge it? Is that how you gauge it? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, it's if they come back for another one, that means they liked it enough to keep coming. So yes, that's equal to the laugh in a I guess in a stand up setting, and Facebook has like the top fan badge now. Have you seen that? Like
I've seen it. I'm trying to keep up to it all, man.
I
It
know.
is insane.
It is,
I,
but they have the top fan badge. So there's people that after they watch so many or they like so many of my things, they're offered the top fan badge, and it's cool. I'm saying, oh, that person, because you don't have to accept it. You can say, I don't want people to know that I'm a top fan of this guy, but they accept it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. They like my stuff, so that's enough.
in this process of doing, are you still doing stand up like every day kind of thing or every weekend? Are you still out there doing it or is it more online content now?
It's more online content. I stand up is I've done some, and then I really just kind of started pushing the online comedies, and that's kind of I'm built more for um, this camera, like multiple takes, right? So I
Sure.
don't have to do it all live at once. I'm definitely built for more on-screen stuff. Like as an actor, I haven't done much theater. It's mainly on camera stuff. So I'm built more for that. But I do like stand up, and I can probably foresee some live events coming down the road. So we'll get back into it hopefully at some point.
I'm assuming it's key to make yourself laugh first.
It is. I mean, but you wouldn't believe how many times I'm writing something and I'm cracking up to myself,
Right.
and you share it with somebody else and they're like, that's not that funny. Um, so I always joke, I'm like, I'm laughing, I'm having a good time. So hopefully the people watching are having a good time. But yeah, start with making yourself laugh first. Whatever I think is funny, hopefully someone else has the same sense of humor. Yeah.
Right. And as you're writing this stuff out, long form, short form, shorts, all these different things, and it's a topic and a theme that I'm touching on a lot with guests because a lot of people that are coming on the show are doing some heavy content. But I never get tired of kind of asking the balance question to writing, doing your
Mhm.
comedy, doing the things that you think are funny, but then paying attention to algorithms and saying, well, I have to be funny in 1 minute for TikTok, or I have to be funny in 17 seconds, or I have to be funny in a certain amount of time for shorts. So, how much of that goes into what you're producing, or is it more? I'm just gonna put a 3 minute video out, and people are gonna find it funny or they're not.
That's a good question. I think early on it was the latter. It was I'm going to just create videos and just make them whatever length I feel like they should be, and put them out. And if people like them, great. But I think that you have to acknowledge the algorithm. You have to acknowledge what the companies are doing to kind of funnel people into that 90-second to 60-second time frame. And I think I've kind of adapted and adjusted my writing, my comedy to fit that 90 seconds is a good amount for me. I feel like that's enough time for me to write a script, put it all together, and it makes sense at the end. I do struggle with the 60 seconds. I feel like that's a
Hmm.
little short for me. It's hard to kind of get everything going and kind of set everything up and then have it all play out and then have the punch at the end. It can be tough based on my type of comedy where I've got a couple different characters.
Yeah.
If it's a one person type thing or a stand up thing, I think that's certainly doable. But I have struggled getting it to be shorter. Um,
Because you probably you do this thing and you're like, but the bit is 3 minutes.
right.
Like
Yeah.
like okay, like a comedian that tells a long story, you know, that you have to commit to in order to get the punchline,
Yeah.
and to the ones that we all love and those kind of comedians that do that. Could you imagine like in the 70s or it's like, listen, you guys, I know the joke is 7 minutes long, but you only get 1 minute to understand it. It must drive you a little bit bonkers because you probably have 3 minutes worth of stuff to jam in there that you really want them to watch.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of times I end up having like I call it like a bonus page where all the stuff that didn't make it into the video just goes to
Sure.
the next page, and I'm like, I guess I'll just save it for another time, or if I have another video on the same topic or the same joke, I can work it back in there. But yeah, I do find it tough to anybody that probably uh, talks for a living or makes jokes for a living, does anything, the struggle is not to find more content or make it longer. It's always to pull it back and make it shorter. But I've never really taken a video that was 90 seconds and then cut it to 60 for YouTube shorts or something like that and thought that it made the video worse. It didn't make it worse. It just made it shorter. And there's some jokes that are left out. It's like, okay, you're not getting what I feel like is like the good, all
Yeah.
the good stuff, but you are getting the gist of it.
Hmm.
So it's sort of a both and, but ultimately I'm with you. It's hard to get it, the jokes that I've got in my head coming out like crazy. It's like to rein those in and have it make sense when just in a minute.
It changes comedy a bit.
Yeah.
Like I had this question for the Will sort of portion of this thing.
Mhm.
Um, but we're in it, so I want to talk. I want to ask about it now from a do standpoint. On that, comedy is various versions of what comedy looks like. A comedian, by trade to people, traditionally was a guy in a mic or a girl in a mic in a club, a bunch of people smoking, drinking, and everyone laughing and leaving. And
Yeah.
now it's evolved to online, and then it's evolved to shorts, and it's evolved to all these different things. So is comedy the same, just with different layers or different versions? Is the core of it still in a club with a mic, or do you foresee this world of comedy having to evolve because of the listener and the watcher?
Man, that's a good question. I do think it varies based on the comic, but I think that yeah, you think about where even stand-up comedy is going. It's going to Netflix specials. It's going to Amazon Prime specials. It's all going to streaming. Everything's going to streaming, no matter what it is, even stand-up comedy. So you can still go to a club and watch a stand-up comic and do all that, or you can sit on your couch and watch a great stand-up comic on your TV in the comfort of your home and air conditioning with a drink in your hand um, and food and pizza or whatever you want to do. So I
Yeah,
think that it is shifting. Everything is shifting in entertainment in that way, and so I think that a lot of stand-up comics are adjusting to that. I believe, and for me, again, I lean towards actor comedian more than I do stand-up comedian.
sure.
And so for me, that I don't mind that. Um, because again, I could be a sitcom comedian. I hope, I think, and we could talk about that in the will section maybe. But
Sure.
yeah, so I think it is changing, and everything is streaming. So live events are there, but it all, even people look at Nate Bargatze. He's got his new a big live event. Well, they film it so they can put it on streaming service. So it's all about that TV, man.
Josh Mancuso, how did you do it?
How did I do it? Well, which part?
All of it.
All
How
of
did
it.
you get to the spot? How did you get to this spot of viralness
Yeah.
for your comedy, your bits? But was it in the clubs starting on a mic, or did it take off and go right to what you're doing now, and you're riding it out? So what is that journey of Josh to this point?
Yeah, I'm a bit of an enigma in terms of the typical stand-up comedy route. Again, I did some, but not much. It's definitely not what led me to where I'm at now. Is really producing the comedies online is how I am where I am now. And so I started doing um, comedy videos a few years ago, 2019, 2020, just every now and then it was more for fun, kind of a bonus to kind of what I was doing with my career, which I ran a video production company. So I've been behind the camera a lot of my life. I started acting in about 2015 or 2016 on the side, and then eventually again made a few comedy videos here and there just because it's such a great outlet. And where I live, I don't live in a major city, so I don't have comedy clubs all the time that I can just go to. There we have a couple, and so it's just a way for me to get my comedy out there, out of my brain and into an audience. And it's so nice to have that. So I started doing it a few years ago, here and there, and then finally in the summer of 2022, so last summer, I really decided, okay, I'm going to go for this for real. Like, we're going big. We're gonna do it. And so we're cranking out, 2 or 3 videos a week. Um, and I really started to see people latch on to that a little bit in the summer. And then when I really started doing sports related comedy in the
Mm.
fall, that's when things went big. And I think that's a combination of timeliness, the relevance of what was happening in the world of college football. People love college football, and I kind of got lightning in a bottle there a little bit with my comedies, and so started blowing up. And it was amazing. It was cool to experience that. It was really, it was wild, and that's all happened pretty fast. I mean, we're talking about less than a year, and here I am on the Do.Did.Will podcast, living my best life. So
Uh, well, I appreciate the time. I mean, for sure. I don't not sure it led you to here per se. I think I found you. This isn't Smartless, but I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. So, what was that first moment for you then, where it took off and you, like, I'm assuming you're making a living at it full time now. So, at what point, outside of the video editing and the things that you were doing behind the camera, at what point in front of the camera did it take off and you're like, I think I can do this for a living now. I think this is it. I think I'm doing this.
that's a good question. I really think it was the first college mascot video I did. That was the one that really took off and ended up with 1 million views after just a few days or a couple weeks. I can't remember. And that's when I thought, I've stumbled into something here that could be really big. College football fans are wild and crazy. They love their teams. Um, and it's a passionate base of people in America that support this sport. And so I did that. That was one of the first sports videos I did. And I thought, okay, I've got something here. And it was the Auburn Tigers was the mascot video I did.
Was
And I
the
was
one? Okay.
joking about how they're the Auburn Tigers, but they all yell War Eagle. So they've got this eagle that flies around the stadium, and just like the inconsistency and the comedy that comes from those things. Not that it would be great to do like an origin meeting between like the committee of 2 or 3 people who are sitting around thinking, what do we need a mascot for University of Auburn. What are we going to do? And this is what they come up with, and I package it into 90 seconds and going back and forth, um, and the response I got from that, I think, shocked me, because I'd done some videos I thought were pretty funny that were non-sports related and I thought were great, but that one was the one that just took off. So that's when I knew I've got something here. And then, I go back and look at the Auburn video now and think that it's not even one of my better ones. We've learned so much on how to put it together,
Yeah.
for me as an actor, and the way that we edit them to be better than they were then. So that was the first one that really, I think, I realized I've got something here.
Well, then it makes it easier because then at some point you can probably say, well, if that one took off, so let's stay in that lane for a little while, and if it is not broke, let's not fix it, and then people probably start asking for different things as you go through it. Have you always been funny, or did you become funny through filming, or were you a funny guy growing up?
I've always been kind of a jokester, prankster, right? So growing up, I loved to crack jokes. It was, fourth grade, trying to make girls laugh, right?
Yeah.
And even still, I'm married and I've got 3 daughters, and I'm still always trying to make them laugh. So I always consider myself like living room funny, right? It's like I'm always cracking jokes, having a good time, just enjoying things, and could be pretty witty, pretty sarcastic, and just yeah, generally funny. I think people would say I'm a funny guy. People ask my wife all the time now. They're like, "Is he like this at home all the time?" And she's like, "Yeah, like he's, yep, all the time, and doesn't, never turns it off." So, I think I've always been funny, and yeah, it's very cool to be able to be in a place where you think I've got this talent or this skill. Could I turn it into something? And then you start going down that road, and there's certainly bumps, and there's some, it's never like a straight road. It's always zigging and zagging. But you come to a place where you're like, okay, I can really actually make a living doing this, and I can have fulfillment doing this. And yeah, I think comedy can be learned to a point,
Hmm.
for sure. You can learn how to write comedy well. You can learn how to tell jokes, but sometimes it's just kind of either in you or it's not. And I'm the kind of guy I'm always being funny, so I'm like, I might as well capitalize on that, right?
It's so easy to uh, become 8 years old. Like when you got kids, right?
Yeah,
It's just so fun to be like 8 again, and then like, oh, the kid's just laughing all the time, and it's you think you're the funniest human alive. When your 8 year old is losing their mind at you, and then they become 14 and they don't find you as funny anymore. So then you got to change your content, and you
yeah,
got to
that's
try to
funny how that
find new
works.
ways to make them laugh, which goes from falling down at home and doing a pratfall to falling down at the mall. Wow, that's right. That's all
That's
you can
right.
do. That's all you can. That's
Well,
all you
my
can
my
do.
youngest daughter, she's 6, and she thinks I'm hysterical. I've
Right.
got her in stitches all the time.
Yeah.
My oldest one, she's 14. Yeah, she thinks I'm funny, but then there's an element of, she goes to school, she comes home, and she's like, "Dad, all the guys in my class watch your videos. It's so embarrassing." Like, yeah, it's embarrassing. I get it. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, you're at the mall because that's embarrassing, and you're getting new shoes because they're watching. So laugh
Yeah,
away, daughter.
that's
Laugh
right.
away.
That's right.
Jump on the train.
Exactly.
That's funny, man. So the plan, sir. I did get a note from your publicist saying that things have been going amazing and awesome, and you've had some major career milestones happening for you. So what's the plan? What will you do next?
Yeah. I'm going to continue to, like you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Let's keep making comedies, man. That's what I love to do, is make people laugh. So we're going to continue to just crank out some videos. Sometimes those videos are huge. They're winners. We're going a million views. And sometimes it's like, that one was okay. We just kind of keep going. So we're going to keep being consistent and keeping that goal of just, I'm here to make people laugh. And then we just launched a podcast ourselves. It's called That's Funny with Josh Mancuso, and it's me, and I have a co-host. It's just one of my best friends. His name is Drew,
Awesome.
and he kind of facilitates the podcast and probably tees me up for some jokes. We just launched the first episode today, as a matter of
Hey.
fact, of this recording, and so I'm excited about that. It'll be a weekly podcast, and we're just learning. But I my belief, I think, is that if the first podcast is our worst one, then it can only go up from there. But
My first one was done on this.
on,
My
well,
first one that I ever did was I was in a hotel room in somewhere in the UK, and
yeah,
that's where the coffee asshole bit came from.
that,
I just talked into the phone. I sent it to a buddy of mine who did a quick little edit on it, and it didn't sound half bad. And then it took off, and I'm like, "What the hell?" And just
yep,
so there's not a ton of rules. There's a shit ton of stuff on YouTube and all these things about the rights and the wrong. You're already well ahead of the game because you're already viral on all your stuff. So it's I'm not going to say it's going to be easier for you to do it, but
yeah.
people have to choose how to spend their time. And if they're already spending time with you, then they're going to continue to that one and continue to spend time with you over there. So
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that was our thinking. If I'd started a podcast a year ago, I don't know that it really would have made sense. But now it's okay. We've built an audience. You
yeah,
mentioned a milestone, and just hitting 100,000 followers on Instagram felt
amazing.
really good. It was like, oh man, um, and so with the audiences there. So now let's provide some other avenues for all the podcast listeners out there, and people that are interested in that. So yeah, we're doing that, and then there's I'm in a couple more films coming up this year that the best thing to do is just kind of stay in touch with my social media, and you can find
Yeah.
out kind of when things are coming. But yeah,
Anything that's been announced that you can say, or everything that's still under wraps that you haven't been
um,
confirmed for yet?
yeah, one film called It's All Right Now. It comes out. We're not entirely sure when it comes out, but it'll be on streaming services probably at some point this year. It
Awesome.
takes place in the 1970s. It's a drama, actually. So um, every comedic actor wants to be a dramatic actor, right? So,
Understood.
still get the dramas going. But yeah, we'll be producing some of our own comedies as well. We're talking now about how can we take what we've got here and put it into a larger format of a series, a film, like a feature film or something like that, where it's the characters that people have really latched onto. How can we take this and move it forward in a different kind of way and package it for theaters or for streaming? And
Hmm.
so we'll see how that goes. And I'm always doing auditions, right? Like I did an audition recently. I got a call back. I got a second call back for again, it's an independent film, but it'll be a good one. And I'm waiting to hear back on that one. So I'd love to be able to announce more. Hopefully
Oh,
soon.
hey,
Have be back in a few weeks, and maybe I'll have some good
it's
things
the
to say.
journey, right? Well, I mean, it's the journey. You were talking about sitcom comedy. Is that something of interest to you, like jumping onto a sitcom or writing one?
Yeah, both. I think I'd be a great Disney dad myself. My kids think so too. I think a lot of people have said you could be a Disney dad, right? Like that kind of wholesome, dad joking all the time. But I think my type of humor is definitely a sitcom style humor, or think of a comedy, a Will Ferrell or um, Adam Sandler comedy. I think I could fit into something like that. So that's shooting for the stars, obviously. So I'd love to be in that place in the future. And I don't know. I'm one of those people that I feel like that type of opportunity is going to come at some point. So um, and maybe it won't, but that's the goal. That's where I'd like to be in the
Talent already
coming
wins. The
years.
talent wins, my man. Talent wins every time. I'm a believer, especially if you're catching lightning in a bottle, as you mentioned, and the stuff
Yeah,
that you're putting out is really, really funny. So,
I
I
appreciate that.
mean, someone's gonna catch it. And
Yeah,
here's the beauty about the world that we're in right now. And I mean this respectfully, but to me, it doesn't necessarily matter if someone catches this because you're already doing it.
yeah,
Like you're kind of like it's like that to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. Like even, I mean, the internet's been around for a while, but let's just say the last 10 years, which is pretty a lot. It's a lot of content.
yeah,
It's kind of crazy.
yeah.
But to get discovered or to get out there, you had to schlep it through the comedy clubs, and you had to do these things, and that opportunity to do this viral content just didn't really exist.
That's right.
So if you're making a living at it, everyone has their own version of making it or whatever they got to do. But if you're making this content and people are laughing and you're going viral, you had 100,000 people on Instagram and growing, like it does to me take some of the pressure off of trying
Yeah,
to get there because you're already there and you're providing for the family, you're making a living at it. So
yeah,
phase one is done.
yeah.
Phase one is done from that part. So the rest of it should be the fun part, you know?
Yeah, that's great perspective, man. And that's so good. And I've been trying to keep that perspective, especially like if I'm like frustrated at my job that I've got here doing things, I'm like, what are you frustrated about? Like you literally make comedy videos for a living. Like what could possibly be bad right now? So always keeping that perspective, I could be doing something else. And yeah, I mean, everybody's definition of making it is different. I don't know that anybody necessarily makes it. I think it's all a journey, and then
Absolutely. I just had
eventually
this
it's over.
discussion a couple of weeks ago with a viral gentleman that's gone very viral up here in Canada, and he's doing great. Um, and has some pretty substantial celeb people in his life that
Yeah,
would be deemed making it. I did a whole series on everyone's version of making it in the last show, and I always go with this line, which is the top of one level is the bottom of the next,
mm,
and you just
that's
got to
good.
decide where you want to land.
Yeah,
Like where
that's
is
it.
that version for you going to land? And it's like, Ryan Reynolds doesn't need to own the Ottawa Senators, but he just wants it.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, how much is enough? It doesn't. Everyone's got their own version. So,
Yeah,
I really love what you're doing online. It's great. A friend
yeah.
of mine turned me on to you and said he's awesome. He's doing this really funny stuff. And I kudos to you, man. I think
Oh
phase one's
man,
already complete for you, and
I
um and,
appreciate
and
that.
it's going to be an easier. Well, I use that term loosely, not necessarily easier, but maybe a
Right.
more fun journey to the next level. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, it definitely. I love where I'm at, and if all I did was this for the rest of my life, I would be a very blessed man, and it would be a blast. So
And the
everything,
only thing you got to do now is adjust your comedy to make sure your 6-year-old still laughs in 5 years.
that's right. Yeah.
Still make her laugh.
Yeah.
Awesome, Josh. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, so obviously Instagram is kind of one of my main places. It's just my handle is at Josh Mancuso, and then YouTube as well. I'd love people to go there, and they can. Sometimes you can see some of the longer videos that don't make it on
Yeah.
Instagram in the 90-second version. So YouTube and Instagram would be great. It's just just Josh Mancuso, and then I'm on Facebook as well.
Really funny. I really appreciate the time. It's Josh Mancuso. You can find him online everywhere. His videos are super great. And as I said, I played the coffee one earlier, which hooked me. I am going to follow this episode up with a few clips down the road of some of the stuff you're doing, including your weatherman, which I love very much.
Weatherman, yeah.
The sweaty, nervous weatherman is great. So keep banging out that stuff, my man, as much as possible. And
I will, man. Brent, thank you so much. Thanks for your time and asking me on your show and letting me hang out with your listeners.
It's a real pleasure, and the time is greatly appreciated. It's Do.Did.Will, the Story of People podcast. That's Josh Mancuso. We'll be back next week, everybody, with another story about somebody that's done things, did things, or will do things. And this guy is going to do lots. I can already tell. Thanks, buddy.
See ya.